Okay, then we can start.
Awesome.
If you want to tell us about yourself, where and what did you study in college, and why did you choose to be an academic coach?
So I went to college at Franklin and Marshall out in Lancaster, and I was an English major and a mathematics minor. So I spent time on a variety of different kinds of courses, which I enjoyed. And then in graduate school, in working with reading, writing, and literacy education, I also worked as a learning instructor at my grad school. And it worked out well that at the time I was graduating, a position opened up at LaSalle in learning instruction. And we kind of sometimes use the term learning instruction and academic coaching interchangeably, but basically talking about those strategies for reading, studying, learning, test taking, and also time management and organization. So that's how I came to LaSalle.
No, it's so fun because I've worked with you guys for so long, and I don't know everyone's backgrounds because and Liz just said she's a photography major,
Hmm.
so it's so interesting how you all came to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, what success strategies did you use in college? And now that you're on the flip side, do you have
Mhm.
any? Would you like to have done something different, or what's your take on that?
So I think I definitely had enough time that I put into my studies, and I know that's something sometimes students struggle with putting in adequate time, and especially with having a lot of reading-based courses, needing to build in a lot of time for reading and writing was something that was really important. Um, for some of my math courses, having classmates to study with and meet up with regularly to review that content, and even going to faculty office hours was something that was really important for my success in those courses because they got really difficult really quickly. And I couldn't have done it on my own. And again, it was ultimately me taking the exams, but I really relied on that support as I was making sure I was understanding the concepts. And I think location was important. So for me, getting out and being in the library sometimes, not all the time, and having different places on campus that weren't in my residence were important too, to make sure I did have some focused time and to break up the schedule so it didn't seem like I was in the same place all the time.
I think two of those things are really pertinent right now. For like the location thing right now for
It's so
people,
hard
it's
right now.
such a challenge. Like I'll switch from my room to my basement.
Right.
Like, now I'm going to the lab like twice a week, so that has really helped with my productivity.
That's
And
great.
then the other one, I was really when you talk about group work, I was really encouraged or happy to see one of my tutoring students for anatomy was scheduling online Zoom group sessions,
Oh, that's
which
awesome.
I say in sessions, but I don't know if anyone really does it. And they did. So I was like, okay, that because in courses like that, like you said, math, I took orgo, they're doing
Mm,
anatomy. It's so hard to do it on your own. It's so
yeah.
important. So that's very important. And it's important now, even though we can't meet face to face, group work still has its benefits.
Right. And in terms of what I might have done differently, I mean, I did sometimes do a lot of just basic memorizing for courses that were more memorization based. And again, for those courses, what I did got me through. Do I necessarily remember some of that information long term? No.
Right.
And maybe for some courses that matters and some courses it doesn't matter, but especially thinking about things that might be related to your major or things that you do want to make sure you fully understand, making sure that you're understanding what you're memorizing, because otherwise you're not going to have it later and you might need it or want it. So
Right.
and maybe in some courses I would have thought about that a little bit differently.
Yeah. Great. So now that you have this experience on the academic coaching side, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see students make their first semester?
I think underestimating the amount of time it's going to take to produce the quality of work that their faculty expect of them is often a common struggle for first year students, especially because the amount of time or the strategies they used in high school might not translate to the grades and the results that they want in college. So I think underestimating that amount of time, and also realizing that they might need more structure than maybe their college schedule provides. So they might need to build in some accountability for themselves in terms of how they schedule with their work or times they want to go places, knowing that there's other students who have lots of structure and demands on their schedule. So it's a different concern there in terms of thinking about the amount of time. But for some students, it might be, how do I structure my time in a way that helps me build in enough time to get the results that I want?
Yeah, I think those two things when I was a freshman. The first thing was I wrote my first literature paper. I was a straight A student in high school. I didn't think anyone needed to look at my paper. I felt really
Hmm.
great and I got a C. I've never gotten a
It's
C.
a reality check.
Well, yeah, and I went to the professor. I just couldn't believe it. And then from there on, I met with the writing tutors. I always met with my professor. So it is that reality check that you need because again, the quality. I mean, I might have worked on it for like 3 days, which was a lot compared to high school and
Right.
we do things like the night before. So there's that. Oh, there was something else that you said that made me think of something. Oh, the time. I took a lot of naps freshman year. I didn't have structure. Like I just was like, oh, I only have class once today. Like,
Right.
and then as I started going, I started building tutoring sessions and like exercise and
Mhm.
just going different places to study. So I think a lot of students are hit with that challenge because in high school it's 7 a.m. and I was an athlete, so 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Someone told me what to do. And then when you
Absolutely.
get to college, it's like, oh wow, I don't have practice, I don't have class, I can relax. So
Right. And
that's
I'm never
something,
going to say don't take a nap. I mean,
yeah,
there were some naps built into my college
yes.
routine, but in many ways they were fairly structured. Like I knew that like on certain times I had this gap and that's what I was going to
Yep.
do. But then on these other times I was going to do my work. So,
And it's like
you
getting
know,
to the into the habit of identifying what time you can relax, whereas what free time isn't actually free time. And I didn't
right.
grasp that the first semester.
No, it's hard. It's a struggle
Mhm.
for sure.
Yeah, it's an adjustment. So in your own words, what is an academic success coach and who do you think can benefit from scheduling a session with you?
So for academic coaching, I would say our goal is to really think about what strategies students are using. So again, it could be related to time. It could be related to follow through on some of the goals related to time in their courses. It could be, again, how do I maybe read more effectively or take notes more effectively or prepare for exams more effectively? How can I learn maybe from my previous exam and think of new strategies that might help me do what I need to do in this course? So those are the kinds of conversations in academic coaching that we tend to have and what I spend a lot of time talking about with students.
Nice. And then this is my last serious question, then I have a fun one. So this question is, what is your biggest piece of advice for students in college? And really, let's like focus on what is something they can do today, like one action they can do today that can just set them up for success. Obviously, it's not a fix all, but like
Right.
something that can put them on the right path.
So I think building in some time to learn from feedback is really important to help students be successful. So whether it is taking the time to actually read the comments on that rubric on Canvas to learn what you need to do the paper better, because if you keep doing the same thing, you're going to keep getting the same result. And maybe that's working for you and that's great. And in that case, you should still identify what about this is working so that way when you encounter future challenges, you have an idea of what previously successful strategies may or may not be appropriate in the new situation. But for something today, I would say, look ahead a little bit, even if it's just looking ahead 2 or 3 weeks with what's coming up personally, with work, with school, just so that way you can think, okay, if there's one thing I can do this week to get a little bit ahead, I'm never going to pretend you're never going to procrastinate or like you're always going to do things 5 weeks early. Like that might not be realistic either. But if there's one thing you can do now to make your life a little bit easier later, what would that be? And taking a minute or two to look ahead so you can figure that out.
Nice, that's really helpful. And my fun question is, what are you currently binge watching? So I know in the pandemic, there's not much to do. Now it's getting warm out, so hopefully
Yeah.
everyone will get out more, but especially during like mid-pandemic, what are you
Yeah.
binge watching?
Actually, I haven't really been watching any TV recently at all,
Nice.
which is a little earlier in the pandemic. There was definitely some of that, and I can't even remember. It seems so long ago now what those things were.
Yeah, it's been a year.
So it's more likely though if I'm going to do something kind of mindless, it's just looking at my phone on random YouTube
Yeah.
videos, articles, things like that, and kind of falling into a wormhole with that. So I understand how it's not that
Yeah.
I'm like being perfectly productive, but it's just binge watching is not currently my
Yeah, that's so
my choice
funny.
for that. But
Nice. Well, thank you for joining me
thank you,
today. This is
Tess.
really, yes, I think this will be really good for students to see your perspectives on who can benefit from coaching. I think everyone can, so this was really great.
Absolutely. Thanks for talking to me, Tess.
Yeah, have a
Have a
nice
good day.
day.